Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world class. I'm Ryan Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we arm ourselves with a vomit bag as we discuss Pixar Pal-A-Round in Disney California Adventure in Anaheim, California. And joining us in the swinging gondolas of doom is none other than Samantha Souza, a theme park creator and just overall creator in general. You can find her on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
And as always, please like and subscribe to keep us alive. If you're watching the video version over on youtube.com/@FYIApod, or if you're listening to this via audio, subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars, please. And consider supporting us on our fourth wall, which is a different version of Patreon. You can join our fourth wall and become a park hopper, as we're calling it, or as Byron refers to it, an FYA hole, by heading to FYApod.com. Not only will it help us keep this madness going, but you'll get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you're tuning into now. And finally, FYApod.com is also where our merch is. And you could, if you're interested in that. Anyways, without further ado, Sam, thank you for joining us in the Tiki Room here. This is actually my first time meeting you, but you and Byron have already had a theme park adventure together.
Yes.
We did.
I'm glad you brought up the vomit bags, by the way, Ryan.
Yes.
Samantha, you actually brought the vomit bags to my attention when we actually rode this ride at the end of last year.
They have an official name for them, too, I think. I think it's like motion sickness bags or motion bags or something like that. They don't call them vomit bags.
I mean, that's a little bit more palatable, I suppose.
That's true. But I mean, also, if I'm about to vomit, I kind of want something that's titled exactly that so I don't have to guess.
On my last ride of this ride, somebody put their half-eaten turkey leg into the vomit bag as like a wrapper, and I was like, that's genius.
Was that the ride you did with your mom?
Yes.
Oh shit. Oh, shit. We don't even have a bar to hold on to. Man, I can see why people are afraid of this. Throw up. Oh yeah, I don't know if I like this.
All right, Mom, what did you think of the Pixar Pal-A-Round after all?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit queasy.
Mom, we don't want to tell people that you were queasy. Like, we want people to go on the ride.
So I shouldn't say that.
No, just don't say that part because it might make people want to go on the ride. Okay.
So leave out the part about throwing up.
Yeah, leave that out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll leave that out.
Okay. So try again.
It was fantastic. I didn't get queasy at all. I didn't throw up for sure on anybody.
Can you say with 100% confidence that they didn't just vomit out that turkey leg and you were just saying that?
I can't. I won't lie to you. I can't say anything with 100% confidence in this life, but that for sure probably not. But I thought that was genius because they didn't have their little turkey leg wrapper anymore. They were just in the line gnawing on it, and then all of a sudden they were like, ooh, I want one of those.
Probably more likely than them vomiting like a Looney Tune.
I don't recall those bags being that big to hold a turkey.
They're pretty
leg,
big.
really.
They're like they're like the brown paper bag you'd get at a liquor store.
I have footage of Samantha pulling this bag out of the side compartment of this ride vehicle and bringing it to my attention because I totally forgot those things existed.
Wait, did you guys get on this ride together?
We did.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I thought you guys just got Jack cookies and then called it a day.
And not quite. No, like we knew this.
Oh no.
This was Samantha's attraction of choice. Although I think there's a lot of deliberation, right?
Well, yeah, all of the ones that I wanted to do were either already taken but then I was like,
fair.
you know what? I bet nobody's going to ask for this ride. And I'm pretty synonymous with this ride because I love it. I don't understand the association with vomiting and or being afraid. A lot of people say this is like the scariest ride at both parks and refuse to ride it. And I just genuinely don't understand.
Oh, I definitely understand the association with vomiting. I will say this is one of the few rides that actually gets me motion sickness. I still ride it because, I love rides.
Really?
But, for whatever reason, I don't know. This and Mission Space. These are the two rides that get to me.
But the zipper, fine.
Zipper, totally fine.
Because that makes sense.
The fact that you're even comparing this to Mission Space, this is like in a completely other league of motion sickness if you're even susceptible to that at all. Mission Space is literal death.
I do want to ride the zipper 20 times in a row until I pass out.
Okay, you might want to get that checked.
I hope I won't. Byron, when we do have guests come on this show, we do ask them, as we mentioned before, what rides they want to cover. And as you mentioned as well, a lot of the rides you wanted to cover were already taken, but that has landed us in this beautiful spot that we're in now.
We are on the cusp of doing Casey Jr., I think, at one point.
Oh, yeah, I do recall
That
you
was what I
saying that.
requested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think a wave of passion hit you to ride hard for Pixar Pal-A-Round.
And I guess we've already kind of explained why you wanted to choose this ride. So I guess let's just go ahead and jump straight into first impressions. What was your first impression of this ride, Samantha?
My first impression of this ride was when it was the Sun Wheel in
Very good, yes.
California Adventure 1.0. I don't think I went on it for a while, but I was just an admirer from afar because it wasn't high on my priority list, I think, back in the day.
Just high
and
in the
again,
horizon.
back in 1.0. Yes, exactly. It was just 1.0, like, there was no theming to any of the rides.
Yes.
So I feel like the desire was not necessarily like, oh, I really want to go on this X ride. It was just like a Ferris wheel. But my first impression of actually being on it, I think, was when it was Mickey's Fun Wheel.
Yes.
In like iteration 2.0.
Yes, that's right.
And I've only ever been on the swinging, by the way.
Oh,
I'm only a
interesting.
swinger.
Likewise.
I don't do
Only a
this.
swinger.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's just for point of reference. I've never been on the regular one, even though I've always like wanted to try it because the views are probably even better because it goes even higher because it's on the outer rim.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I've always thought it was like chill. I was never afraid of it. So
I actually had the opinion until I did the research for this pod of like, I think that Sun Wheel actually looked pretty good. And then I looked at a picture of it, and you're right. Like the theming it looked like something you would find at fucking Home Goods. Like it was not a good look.
Yeah.
So maybe things are just crystallized or rose-colored glasses looking through my mind palace of my memories. Byron, what was your first impression of this ride?
I also rode it when it was the Sun Wheel the first time. It was actually annual pass previews for California Adventures. I believe it was January of 2001.
Nice.
This is
Whoa.
back when annual passes were $99 a year.
What a feather in your cap.
And then when California Adventure opened, then they expanded the annual pass to include both parks for $120 a year. But yeah, so that was January of 2001. It was the Sun Wheel. Like we had as going to Disneyland when you're around like 8 or 9 years old, you're seeing this entire park get built on the other
It's pretty awesome.
side of the Esplanade. So we saw the Sun Wheel like essentially getting constructed for like the late 90s and early 2000s. So it was like obviously an attraction we were somewhat anticipating. Like we knew it was going to be there, although for me it was like all about California Screaming
Yes.
at the time. But the Sun
for
Wheel,
me, it was about the Maliboomer.
Malibu.
Oh shit! I haven't thought about the Maliboomer in a long time. Its spirit lives
Oh my
on
gosh,
in
that's
Guardians.
the ride I missed the most. It does. I mean, they couldn't really have both, right? But
No.
to me, that was the one that I was like, that's the priority. Then the Sun Wheel.
There
but-
was a brief layover, I think, when both attractions existed, or at least Tower of Terror and Maliboomer existed.
There was
But it
that.
pretty,
yeah, there was
pretty
a
brief.
second.
But in regards to Sun Wheel, it was pretty packed, even though it was an annual pass preview day. I did not expect the gondolas to swing until approaching the attraction and noticing, oh, these things swing and there's a swinging option. Cool, that'll like add a little bit of extra fun. And my memory's pretty hazy on.
You always take the swinging option, Byron.
Yes, a swinger.
Swinger through and through, both
yes.
these swingers through and through. Got it.
Listen, why do you think we're friends?
And I think our whole family got on this. I don't recall everyone's specific like reactions, but I personally remember being pretty scared.
Yeah.
I'm like, how? Like, and I kept thinking throughout the ride, I'm like, how are there no seatbelts or anything for this? I remember collective screaming, perhaps from my parents that were getting a lot more than they bargained for.
Yeah.
And overall, I think it exceeded my expectations. And I think it was my only Ferris wheel that I'd ever ridden at that point, too.
Oh, wow.
I had never been on a Ferris wheel before. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever been on a Ferris wheel that doesn't swing. As in, I don't think I've ever been on any other Ferris wheel besides this one.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
So
interesting.
straight up swinging or bust. This was a much more thrilling attraction than I expected. And
It's
I'll just leave it at
deceptively
that.
thrilling from afar. It looks like it's going to be nothing.
Yes.
No, it's really hard to anticipate the feeling of sliding on these rails. And I think it's because you spend your whole life going on a Ferris wheel and you think, okay, you just slide around. What could that possibly do to make the experience different? Like, I could see it. It's a Ferris wheel still. And you don't really know until you're in that gondola and it starts moving. It does feel kind of like you're going to die. And I think that's because it feels like the ride is malfunctioning. That was my first impression. I was like, this is just, I can't believe we waited 30 minutes to get on this ride. I remember being upset about that. And then when it started
Really?
moving, I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot more substantial than I thought it was going to be.
100%. In the best way.
It got me queasy. It got me queasy. I do remember that too.
Once again, Zipper, fine.
Zipper, I think
one
it's
of life's great
sense.
mysteries.
I think it's because the zipper is a continual attack on you. There's no like reprieve or like chance for you to like catch your breath. So it's like you kind of get used to it. Just the consistent pounding.
When you're a swinger and you're just sliding on those rails, it's just much more enjoyable than
Jesus Christ.
When you're a swinger, the constant pounding is not the same.
No, it's not.
But
No.
I mean, but you can anticipate it coming. It's not like you don't know when that part's about to come.
That's right. Especially when you've already lubricated up with a line beer beforehand. And with that, Byron, why don't we get into the history about
All right.
the Pixar I'll remind both of you, the Pixar Pal-A-Round.
Let's find out how
That came about.
this PalARound pounding came to be.
Jesus Christ.
March 31st, 1889, after 2 years, 5 months, and 5 days, construction on the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France is completed, in which Gustave Eiffel himself would inaugurate the iconic structure.
Wait, that guy's name was Gustave Eiffel? That's the guy's name who made the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
His name was Gustave Eiffel? Sorry. I shouldn't laugh at his name. I just wasn't expecting that. I didn't expect... Okay, sorry. That just took me off guard.
In which Gustave Eiffel himself would inaugurate the iconic structure that very day by raising a massive French flag at the top. Becoming what was at the time the world's tallest man-made structure, the Eiffel Tower was built with the intention of being the star of the 1889 Paris Exposition, a World's Fair which was held from May to October of that very year.
Have you seen the footage of that guy who was convinced he had accomplished the feat of flight with his... He had made mechanical wings, and it's actually on YouTube. It's kind of horrifying.
I'm so curious to where this is going.
This guy was so convinced that he had accomplished the feat of flight that he scaled the Eiffel Tower. The police were yelling things at him, kind of something along the lines of probably like, "Hey, I don't think you did it. Cut your losses.
Don't die."
And then he said, "I'll show you." And then he jumped off. And just straight into the ground. Straight into the. Not even a little bit of like resistance to the wind.
How many flaps did he get in?
I don't think many, dude. It was just straight into the ground. There's a video of it of just like you just see like a plume of smoke.
What year was this?
This is very old. This is like footage from like in the early 1900s.
Oh my gosh.
The speech he gives a speech before he jumps of like a very douchey speech of like, you guys have no idea. I'm like basically smarter. And I'll prove it right now, and then right into the ground.
Took a pounding himself.
He did.
Anyways, this iconic piece of architecture would captivate the world at large, and in doing so, set a tremendously high bar for architect Daniel Burnham, who was tasked with leading the design for the upcoming Chicago's World's Fair of 1893. After going through numerous proposals, one particular idea would emerge from George Washington Gale Ferris Jr., a structural engineer who had been inspecting steel in Pittsburgh for the fair. Ferris's design would get the green light to essentially headline the Chicago World's Fair. The result would be a 264-foot tall wheel equipped with 36 gondolas capable of holding 60 riders each and rotating them around the perimeter of the wheel. And although the wheel would prove to be an extremely popular headliner for the Chicago World's Fair, it would also prove to be a major financial burden following the fair's conclusion. It would be disassembled and moved on 2 occasions, ending up in St. Louis where it would ultimately be demolished and used for scrap metal. As for the wheel's legendary inventor, Mr. Ferris himself, he would move on to greener pastures, in which his company would go bankrupt, his wife would leave him, and he would die of typhoid fever soon after.
Yikes.
But his legacy and creation would live on forever and in endless forms.
Wait, this is the guy who made the Ferris wheel? That's what happened to him?
Yes.
His wife divorced him and he died of typhoid fever?
Yeah, shortly after the wheel got demolished, essentially.
Oh, God.
Why did she divorce? Was he just too obsessed with the wheel?
I did not read it.
She was like,
details.
Ferris, all you care about is your wheel?
A lot of it might have had to do with his company going bankrupt after the construction of the
I
Ferris
see. So
wheel.
it wasn't going well. I
yes.
thought he had just become obsessed with the wheel. And she was like, you, Ferris, and your goddamn wheel.
His
I've had
company
enough.
went bankrupt.
That sounds like a movie.
Yeah, he was reduced to nothing financially. I don't know how much of that had to do with his wife leaving him. I'd have to read more into the situation.
That's
but
not what you would expect of an invention that has brought so much joy to children around the world.
100%.
He got dumped and then died of typhoid fever in a barn somewhere.
Yeah,
That's
apparently he
crazy.
had liver issues as well, I think.
That's probably
He's
true.
probably drinking a lot because of all the issues with the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Or just like, no one's riding my goddamn wheel. And then he's like Vincent van Gogh.
Oh.
And no one looked at his art or cared until he was dead.
Yep. That's like with a lot of the great artists,
That is.
but not Walt Disney. And
Walt Disney, he knew.
Yeah.
He knew.
he knew. While Ferris's wheel was not exactly the first amusement wheel to ever exist, it would successfully launch a demand that amusement entrepreneurs were keen on taking advantage of. And there was no better example of this during the early 1900s than at Coney Island, which would become home to several Ferris wheels. One in particular would be taken to a whole new level of innovation when Charles Herman designed what was to become the world-famous Wonder Wheel, which debuted in 1920. This iteration, while not to the massive scale of Ferris's original in Chicago, still stood at an impressive 150 feet tall and introduced swinging gondolas, in addition to the stationary ones situated around the rim of the wheel. The Wonder Wheel remains a beloved and novel attraction at Coney Island to this very day, with only two of its kind being built ever since, the first of which being in 1964 at Yokohama Dreamland in Japan, and the second of which was constructed in 1999 for Disney's upcoming California Adventure Park. This new iteration of the Wonder Wheel was to serve as a major part of the skyline for Paradise Pier, a land inspired by the classic beachside amusement offerings, and because Ferris wheels are synonymous with Midway culture, it simply had to happen. That's right, Disney Imagineering would team up with Swiss amusement manufacturer Intamin to build various rides for Anaheim's Second Gate, including Disney's replica of the Wonder Wheel, with the only prominent difference being the wheel's aesthetic, ditching the Wonder Wheel marquee for a massive sun inspired by 1970s Mexican artwork. February 8th of 2001, the Sun Wheel opens officially with the rest of Disney's California Adventure Park, and as many probably understand by now, this park was not well received when it debuted. And the attendance numbers further indicated that, with California Adventure receiving only 5 million guests in its first year, less than half of Disneyland's 12 million in attendance, it simply lacked a soul as well as many decent attractions. So on October 17th of 2007, Bob Iger announced a $1.1 billion renovation plan for the entirety of Disney's California Adventure Park, with the intention of greatly improving its identity. Speaking of identity, the Sun Wheel would be changed to Mickey's Fun Wheel in 2009, in which the sun artwork was aptly swapped out for Mickey's face. Although Mickey's face remains to this very day, the attraction would take one more pivot, when Disney went forward with transforming Paradise Pier, a tacky, playful, and sanitized tribute to America's classic oceanside amusement offerings, to Pixar Pier, a tacky, playful, but most importantly superior means to drive up merchandise sales. But jokes aside, at least it serves as a celebration of a Disney brand, as opposed to a celebration of something that Walt Disney adamantly tried to avoid when creating Disneyland.
That is true, by the way. I always thought that was so weird. Like Walt, basically, when he was trying to get financing for Disneyland, people had basically told him, like, this is just like Coney Island. And he was like, this is not going to be Coney Island. This is the opposite of
and then they got a Coney Island thing.
and then they built a Coney Island in the park.
Replica, yeah.
The Westcott plans fell through, and then I was just like, let's do Coney Island.
Yeah, it was always an odd thing.
What's funny is that even though they changed the name to Pixar Pal-A-Round, the nickname of Mickey's Death Wheel is still reigning supreme to this day, even though it's not Mickey's Fun Wheel anymore. You guys hear that, right? Mickey's Death
I
Wheel?
have
That's
heard
like
that,
the
yeah.
name of this ride. Yeah.
I think we should change it to Pixar's Pounder.
Pixar Pound-A-Round?
How about the Pixar Pounder?
Ooh.
The Pixar Pound-A-Round is like, especially because there's no restraints in these gondolas.
And then when you ask swinging or non-swinging, it really means something.
That's true. That's true. The thing is, I think people go to a Disney park to transcend the typical like boardwalk theme park or amusement park. So like to have it here, it makes sense why it didn't really work.
And it's also interesting because it's California Adventure. So obviously when it was originally built, it was supposed to have all these homages to like stuff that you would go see in California to kind of, I guess their intention was to encourage visitors to not have to go see the rest of California. They could just do it all at the newly formed Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, that's weird.
But it's interesting because this was based, this along with a lot of Paradise Pier. I get that there's like homages to like the California like pier side attractions, but really it's pulling a lot from amusement enterprises that existed in the like early days of New York's Coney Island.
Yeah,
So it's not even
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
I know that there's like California beachside, like Santa Monica, Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, etc.
yeah.
But it really takes, I feel like at the heart of it all, most of the inspiration from Coney Island.
Samantha, have you been to Coney Island, or have either of you been to Coney
I
Island?
have. I lived in New
Yes.
York for 9 years, and I've been to Coney Island and been on the Wonder Wheel before and after they refurbed it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's cool. It's really cool. It used to be really seedy, and that's what made it even more cool. It was like the carnival barkers and like, look at the freaks and da da da. Like, that was still
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah.
When I when I lived in New York, and then it got kind of homogenized and sanitized, and now it is just kind of like very Pixar Pier feeling, and they put in a lot of new attractions and
I
they
see.
cleaned it up, which to me makes it not really the Coney Island that we all know and love, but like, yeah, the Cyclone and all that, that's very much, I would think the inspiration, but with like a sort of Santa Monica, Santa Cruz Pier skin.
I guess the moral of the story here is just be yourself. Because Disneyland trying to be Coney Island and Coney Island trying to be Disneyland, and it just doesn't work either way. Just lean into what you are. Because
I know, but
I've never been to Coney
you can't
Island.
argue though that that's one of the most beautiful parts of California Adventure at night, especially like that
it's
whole
great.
vista is
It's
like
fantastic.
stunning. Yeah.
Well, the color also really helped it a lot, I think, as well. But I've never been to Coney Island. I've always wanted to go.
It was fun.
Well, just know that what it is now is not what it was then.
That's fair.
I still enjoyed my time there. I mean, I just went for one afternoon like a year ago just to get on roller coasters. Let's be real.
No, it's still cool. But
I probably should have done the Wonder Wheel just because of its historical significance and how it did inspire, and it's like essentially spawned a replica in what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was all about just get in there, get on every coaster I can, and get out. But
God, you're a monster. Let's get back into the history then, I guess.
All
You're
right.
almost done here.
yeah, so with Pixar Pier came yet another rename for the gigantic wheel, reintroducing itself on June 23rd of 2018 as Pixar Pal-A-Round. The attraction would feature gondolas repainted to include our favorite Pixar characters, which we have been pounding or palling around with ever since,
Nice.
depending on whether or not you're a swinger. Does anyone want to take a crack at the average wait time for both non-swinging and swinging? I have both.
Okay. Samantha, you're the guest, so you have first dibs. Unless you want me to go first, in which case I could go first.
No, I mean, I'll go. I feel like swinging is usually it's weird because sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, but I feel like it's usually shorter. So I feel like for swinging, the average wait time is probably 30 minutes. And then for non-swinging, probably 40.
I'm going to reverse those. I think swinging.
Okay.
I think swinging actually does have faster capacity, but it's more demand. So I'm going to go with the demand, and I'm going to go 40 for swinging and 30 for non-swinging.
Okay. Well, if this was Price is Right, you'd both lose.
Okay.
But
All right.
here's where we're at. Non-swinging, we have an average wait time of 22 minutes.
Really? Wow.
And for swinging, just 3 minutes more, an average of 25 minutes.
Okay, so it is more though.
So I think you make a good point, Samantha, that it does seem to trade off to a certain extent. Usually when I see it, I feel like the swinging's a longer line, but I'm not like constantly monitoring
It's a
this
longer
thing.
line, but there's more gondolas.
That's right.
True.
There is.
It goes a little bit faster.
It's a interesting little equation there. But I mean, I'm never standing in line for the non-swinging, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. Let's go ahead and move to some fun facts. And like I said, there's not a lot of lore attached to this ride. So I really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find these fun facts.
I knew you would.
Which you'll see later, because this actually led to some very interesting discoveries, which I'm excited to share. But the ride is roughly 9 minutes long with an unknown cost or ride capacity. I could not find that. I couldn't believe that. But we do know the swinging version has twice the capacity of the non-swinging. As alluded to by the last fact, this ride has a swinging version and a non-swinging version. Do you guys have any guesses to how many gondolas there are? How many jelly beans are in the bottle?
Swinging and non-swinging combined?
Yes.
24?
Byron?
I'll just say 36, just like the original Ferris wheel.
Well, Samantha nailed it. 24. And of those, there's only 8 non-swinging gondolas, which is crazy.
I knew there was like half as many, so that's why I tried to think of how many are there.
So 16 swinging.
16 swinging, 8. Yeah, that's pretty significant. The ride was manufactured by the Swiss company Intamin, as Byron mentioned, which is now known for building Velocicoaster and Hagrid's over at Universal Orlando Resort.
Could you name a couple of the other Intamin rides that opened with California Adventure in 2001?
Maliboomer?
That was S&S.
Shit.
That's the same manufacturer that did Supreme Scream or Doctor Doom.
Supreme Scream.
California Screamin'?
It's California Screamin', Intamin Coaster.
Mulholland Madness?
No, that was actually, I believe, Mock that did Mulholland Madness.
Oh, well, I'm fucking up then.
So they did. Oh, do you want to take a crack at it, Samantha? Do you know any other Intamin?
I have no idea. Are you kidding? No.
Grizzly River Run.
They did Grizzly? That's
Grizzly
weird.
River Run. And
wow,
they also did Jumping Jellyfish.
Nice. Still there.
There actually might be more of them, but just off the top of my head, those are the ones I know from opening day.
Jumping Jellyfish. Good
also,
for them.
Jumping Jellyfish is criminally underrated.
Is it? I think it's properly rated. Samantha.
I don't think enough adults ride that ride without kids.
Samantha, it feels like you're threatening me with coming back on the pod to do Jumping Jellyfish. We're just going to
No. If I'm coming back on the pod for a kid's ride, it's for Casey Jr., and that's for damn sure.
That's true. I do love Casey Jr.
There was a boardroom meeting where they had photos of Tower of Terror, Maliboomer, and Jumping Jellyfish up there. One of these has to go.
Yeah, that's and apparently
save our Jumping Jellyfish.
Exactly.
Anything but Jumping Jellyfish.
The ride takes you 150 feet into the air, according to the Disney official website. But I think the ride is also 10 feet underground, below the water level as well. So technically it's 160.
I hear the diameter of the entire circle is around 164 feet or so.
That is the belief. But on the official website, listed at 150 feet in the air. Not diameter, I guess.
You got a shaculator for that?
Oh yeah, how many shacks would that be? I didn't do the shack calculation. How many Shaquille O'Neals would 150 feet be? That'd be at least 20 shacks. 140. That'd be about it'd be about a little over 21 shacks.
That's a lot of shacks.
Stacked head to heels. That's a lot of shacks.
Just under 21. Yeah, just 20 shacks.
That's about
21 shacks.
I would say about 21 shacks. Roughly 21 Shaquille O'Neals tall. Anyways, the website also states that Pixar Pal-A-Round is, quote, one of only 2 Ferris wheels in the United States that combine fixed and sliding gondolas. The other, as we already mentioned, is the Wonder Wheel at New York's Coney Island.
Yes, the one in Japan doesn't exist anymore.
Here's a fun little bit of trivia. Do you guys have any guess for what Ferris wheel holds the record for the tallest in the world?
Probably the one in Vegas, right? Oh, or what? The London
I would
Eye?
think the London Eye. Yeah.
Byron, you were correct. It's
the Vegas one now.
The high roller. You know
that's bigger than the London Eye?
Do you know how tall it is?
No, I don't.
550 feet.
You know what? If you guys come to Vegas and we do Adventure Dome, we should do that too, because you can buy an unlimited open bar for the entire length of how long you go around.
That sounds crazy. Is it? And can you imagine if they added a swinging option to that in addition to the open bar?
Oh my god, they're smart enough not to do that.
Shots
the bar
flying all over. Be crazy.
Samantha, this is going to be our tradition: riding Ferris wheels.
That's right.
I love that for us.
That would be great. Each gondola features a various Pixar pal, as Byron mentioned, such as Woody, Buzz, Dory, Nemo, Mr. Incredible, Joy, Sadness, and Lightning McQueen, to name a few. I don't believe there's a Mater one, and I hope it stays that way.
I almost wore a Mater sweatshirt today just to spite you.
That is
But it was our first meeting, and again, I didn't want to create a wrong impression on
that
the
would be
first
incredibly cruel of you. Elliot Rosenbaum, assistant producer of Walt Disney Imagineering, who worked on Pixar Pier, said the idea was to explore the friendships featured in so many Pixar films with, quote, all the characters just palling around. According to Coasterpedia.com, the ride accomplishes the swinging by placing the gondolas, quote, on moving chassis. Chassis? I don't know.
Chassis.
I think it's chassis, right? On moving chassis so that they could freely move along. Oh boy, this is another hard word to say. Ellipsoidal tracks placed inside the ride's structure. I figured, Byron, you would understand what that means more than I would.
Not really.
Okay. The ride had two former names. The Sun Wheel and Mickey's Fun Wheel. We already mentioned that. One TikTok from somebody called I Am Harper Finkel went viral. It was a video that they made in the gondola of Pixar Pal-A-Round where they were trapped with another couple who they did not know that took it upon themselves to start making out very, very intensely in front of them. And they made a TikTok about it, and that went viral. I thought that was really
Amazing.
Well, were they in the swinging one?
I hope not.
Maybe they were trying to invite them.
I see.
I'm trying to. Yeah, this is trying to say. Hey, this is a swinging gondola. You
That's
have
right.
to
Maybe they
participate
just
in the swinging activities.
Maybe they took that to heart. One of the few rides in the park also that has no height requirement. I'm telling you, these are some bottom barrel fun facts here. As I mentioned, since it is sparse on fun facts, it also led me to a very interesting discovery. I had no idea of this, but did you guys know that on Yelp, rides are listed on Yelp for Yelp reviews?
I did.
I had no idea. Do you have any idea what the Pixar Pal-A-Round is rated? It has 109 reviews. What do you think the star rating is?
It's probably a solid 3-star.
I'm gonna give it a 4.1.
4.1.
Yeah, 4. Do they do decimals on Yelp? I don't know.
They do. It is a decimal.
do.
It is a decimal. I'll give you guys that hint. It's a decimal.
Okay, well, it's not 4.1.
Okay,
I know that now.
I say 3.8.
Byron.
Let's go 4.2.
Samantha, once again, almost nailed it on the dot. 3.7.
Oh.
Very, very close.
You got me really excited.
I mean, that's pretty damn close.
But
And I thought it would be very funny right now, since we don't have a lot of fun facts, to read some very funny 1-star reviews.
oh, I love this. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's start off with the positive. Here's the 1 5-star review that I really liked. How can someone, this comes from MH. They said, how could someone not like this ride? It's like a Ferris wheel on crack. The stationary gondolas are pretty tame, but the swinging ones are scary as heck. I can understand how it would be uncomfortable to share a compartment with strangers. I was screaming my hair off and singing the Gummy Bear song in hopes of staying alive/calm. However, the wait said only 10 minutes, so they were allowing individual parties to get on without any stranger interference. Yay. It's pretty scary up there, and yeah, the wait kind of sucks, but they have to pretty much let everyone off in an extremely slow manner, but it's fun and worth it, smiley face.
He's not wrong.
I was about to say, as a Pixar Pal-A-Round lover, do you agree with the sentiment shared by M?
100%. I mean, I don't want to get into how much I love this ride just yet, but
Yes.
I feel like everything that he pointed out is 100% accurate. And I also think that riding it with strangers can be part of the fun.
Sometimes. I agree with you sometimes. It could, depending on what you get paired with. Let's see if you share the sentiments of this 1-star review. This comes from somebody named Kate. And this review was written in November 28th, 2017. It says, Mickey's Fun Wheel, more like Mickey's Dumb Wheel. I'm only giving this 1 star because you can't give something 0. The line is deceivingly long. It says 20 minutes, but we ended up waiting 40. You go a whole two, in all caps, rotations before getting off. The first rotation takes a ridiculously long time because it stops every few feet. When it does move, it's not that fun. And honestly, the swinging gondola is scary at best, but it's mostly nauseating. This was an hour of my life that I will never get back. Go get a cocktail instead. If anyone tries to tell you that this is a good ride, they are not your friend. Leave them.
Don't hold back. Tell them how you really feel.
And then another 1 star said, I almost threw up all over my friends on the swinging gondolas.
was it?
No, there's more.
God.
There's more. I could read more of that. I screamed bloody murder to get off the ride, so they stopped it and let me off. I ran to the nearest bathroom and puked my brains out, because not only was I ready to hurl 5 minutes before, but the toilet smelled like dog shit.
Okay.
I had to be pushed in a wheelchair the rest of the day because I couldn't even walk after this. No more swinging gondolas for me. That comes from someone named Marissa.
The secret to not getting sick on this ride is you have to look out at the horizon if you're starting to feel that sort of way.
Like Jack
because
Sparrow.
I come to find that everybody who's feeling that, they're looking down, or they're looking at their friend, or they're looking like in a too close of proximity. So then it's just everything's happening right here. But if you're looking out, it kind of feels more like you're like on a swing at like the park or something, and you can kind of anticipate where it's going. So your body doesn't feel it the same way. Another thing I see is a lot of people on their phones, and they're looking down at their
Not gonna
phone
happen,
or whatever,
yeah.
and that's an instant. Even for me, I can get queasy if I'm looking at my phone. I film a lot on this ride, and it's whenever I'm like editing or doing something in the interim that I'm like, oh shit, that's when I start to feel it, and then I have to remember to look out, and then it goes away.
That's a good pro tip there. And then the last thing I have here is from Reddit. There was actually a poll of 2.9 thousand people, and the question was, do you find the Pixar PalARound swinging gondola fun or scary? Which one do you think won?
Probably scary, because people on Reddit tend to complain.
You're right. It was actually closer than I thought. 1.6 thousand for scary, 1.3 thousand for fun. And then one of the top comments says, there needs to be a third option that says something along the lines of, looks fun, but once you're on it, your life flashes before your eyes.
I don't understand this. I really don't.
Somebody named Foxhound199 said, yeah, scary is not the right word. Guardians is scary. It's like, I'm dropping fast. Holy crap. Mickey's Wheel of Death is just this immediate sense of doom that you are literally dying and it's going to hurt the whole time. And honestly, I had the same kind of like survival panic that happened once it started moving, because it just didn't behave how a Ferris wheel behaves. So it did trigger some sort of like survival instinct in my brain. And I think that's
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Is it because you're completely enclosed that you feel scared? Because I think that what I hear from people the most is that because you're completely encapsulated and you're right next to the water, there's this fear that this is going to come off of the wheel. I'm going to end up in the water. I'm going to drown because I'm trapped. But if you had like an opening that was bigger, maybe you wouldn't have that fear because you could swim out of said tragedy. I don't know.
Well, first off, that is actually 10 times more horrifying than anything I could have imagined. Like, being trapped in a caged coffin as I sink to my watery death is not something that I was imagining.
That's what I hear the most.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's more just like a proper setting of expectations, I think. Like, you look at the zipper, for instance, and you could see from the outside that looks like a very intense experience. It's still more intense than you possibly think it's going to be. But you look at it and you go, okay, I'm in for something here. You look at the Fun Wheel or the Pixar PalARound and you're like, that looks kind of leisurely. It looks like a little bit more fun than a normal Ferris wheel.
It cradles you.
And then you get on it, and all the context of your life of being on a Ferris wheel, being bored, and just kind of enjoying the sights, and then it just doing something that you're not used to. You don't really know how to explain the feeling until you're actually on it. And I think it's just all that like table setting that makes it actually scary. Because on its like own merit, if I'd never been on a Ferris wheel before, I feel like I wouldn't find this ride that scary. Honestly, I think that's what it is for me.
Do you feel that same way on the re-ride, or is that something you only felt the first time?
I think I do feel it on the re-ride because, frankly, I don't get on this ride this often. I think I've been on this ride maybe like, I want to say like 3 or 4 times, and they've been like years apart. So every time I get on it, it almost feels like the first time. It's like, I forget which comedian, I think it was like Lewis Black, when he talks about hating candy corn. And candy corn's one of those things where like every 5 Halloweens you'll take a bite of it and be reminded of how awful it tastes.
Sucks.
It's like, oh wait, maybe it wasn't that bad, and you take a bite of it and you're like, oh wait, this still sucks ass. That's kind of me with the Pixar PalARound, where it's like, maybe it's not as crazy as I remember it, and I get on it and it's just a reconfirmation of like, no, this is actually kind of nauseating for some reason, and it feels like a first time ever.
All I'm hearing is that you need to ride it more frequently.
Maybe that's what it is. You know what? I will get on this ride the next time I go to California Adventure. Seeing as how it's only a 25-minute wait, that's not too bad.
Also, I will say the last time when Byron and I rode it together, we both noted that it was like less intense, and we didn't know if that was like an anomaly or just like maybe it's a little bit less
I
intense.
don't know if it's just because my expectations have been managed since the initial times. Because I hadn't ridden this thing in years until we rode it.
I think that was it.
Is that it? I feel like I've been on
Do
it
one
for
more
4
lap?
days.
I don't know.
No, I've never done it.
Did they tame it down?
Yeah, I don't know. It just, of course, like the first lap around, yeah, you're just loading all the passengers.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, maybe I was just bracing myself and just expected it to be super intense, but...
Or maybe the combined power of both of your freak, like, made it seem less intense. Like...
You know what, Ryan? I think that's what it was.
Because, like, if you go on it with somebody who is, like, you know, gonna be scared by this ride, it's gonna make it seem more scary. But if you go with somebody who's also like, this is not that bad, it's not gonna... Everything about human nature, I feel like, is shared experience.
Yeah, maybe there's some gum on our wheel, like on the wheels, was just reducing the amount of swing. I don't know.
I don't think that.
Maybe something. But yeah, you're right, though. It is, isn't it? You're so right. It is very much affected by who else you're on the ride with, because if they're terrified, even if you're not, it still makes it a little bit more fun and exciting to watch them be scared.
Yes.
But if everybody's just like chilling and smoking a cigarette, then it automatically will feel intense, less intense for everyone, you know?
That would be honoring our guy Eiffel. Moving on to Armchair Engineering. This is what's one thing you would do to possibly make this attraction even better. And we did ask our folks over at fyapod.com first, so I'm going to read some of these. And look, there's not a lot you could do, so some of these are obviously jokey in nature, but Totally Not Seth says, make the swinging cars that scare people even scarier by having them go upside down. This will cause an increase in heart attacks in the Anaheim area, creating more business for local hospitals, being quite beneficial to the Anaheim economy. And this is and thus a great idea. Dan, the annual pass hole, says, I'll go the opposite POV and 86 the swinging cars. Let's plush them out with comfortable seating, air conditioning, and pleasant Pixar-themed lo-fi music playing as you gently move around. The Anaheim heat sucks, and we could do with more cool spots to relax for 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be a swinging vomitorium. And then Arcane Tripwire says, crank everything up to the max and see how fast that thing could spin. Provide barf bags, which they do. And actually, this is the one legitimately, I think, really good idea. Oh, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I did think it's inspired because I do hate the tech that it's... I'll just say it. This comes from Ryan. This isn't me. I didn't write this. I actually really like this idea.
Okay.
This comes from Ryan.
Okay.
Should have changed my name before I wrote this down. I would take advantage of the moving and non-moving cars by installing VR headsets or AR glasses like Mario Kart at Universal. You could turn the Ferris wheel into a much more immersive experience. Imagine having Godzilla and Kong fighting a kaiju, and the Ferris wheel moves around at the same time certain action sequences happen. This would add to the intensity, but also give it more immersion. I'm sure there's other IP that could work as well, like acting you're in a submarine or trying to reach Atlantis, but need to avoid the monster and other obstacles. Honestly, pretty inspired. I don't like AR technology typically, but, you know, it's a cool idea. I'll give.
It's not a bad idea. Are they saying like something like an Oculus, or are they saying? Because I can see an idea where like they're putting things in, like I could see Godzilla walking through like the water on the pier if they're adding things to the actual reality, but not if it's just all fake.
No, yeah. So they're saying that it's AR. So Mario Kart uses augmented reality, and so it would be basically using the same goggles they give you at Mario Kart, and then you would see Godzilla like stomping around the bay. That could be cool, and it would also. That could be cool. I mean, I'm sure it would just make people even more sick. Could you imagine adding virtual reality headsets to people who are already sick swinging on these gondolas? That'd be crazy. Is there anything you guys could think of to improve this experience? I really did rack my brain here, and I it's hard to improve a Ferris wheel.
I mean, I have an idea.
Oh, okay.
Because to me, just from a theming perspective, I think that this could be much more interesting, and it would be very low budge. But what I don't like is that, other than the outside, which as the writer you don't see, you don't know which gondola you're in terms of like which character.
Yes.
And I feel like if they themed the inside of the gondola to the character of the outside in some way, either just through decor or what the piped in music could potentially be in that gondola, so that way it actually felt like a unique experience that was of that character, as opposed to just like there's a sticker on the gondola and that's the extent of the theming. I think that could really plus it up in terms of just the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot in this section, but onboard audio would also help with that. If you heard like the character, or if they narrated throughout, like every now and then.
Yeah,
kind of like
that's a super easy way.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if you got onto like a Miguel themed gondola and there's like all like the flags and like a little like guitar and like
you hear a little
stuff,
un
like,
poco loco. I
yeah,
just said a little,
like just
a little,
a little, just like
un poco,
really
un poco
a little.
Loco.
Yeah, but like that could be cool. It's just really plain, and I feel like that could be fun.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. Something to remind people that you're on a Pixar ride.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Exactly.
Or audio, or I don't really know. I don't know what else you could really do with this thing.
Well, let's go ahead and
the Eeyore of it all. I don't really know.
They just should have it based on one Pixar character. It should just be that bird from that short film For the Birds, and it's like right before the swinging part happens. You just have that thing just like, oh, and like remember like when all those birds are like pecking down, trying to like get its feet off or whatever. Like
kinda,
you know that short film.
I do remember it. I just
vaguely, yeah.
Like the wire with all those other smaller birds.
I'm getting the vibe that Samantha and I remember this film, but not as intricately in detail as you.
It's a wonder why they never picked this to be the theme of Pixar PalARound, considering how popular and we all know.
Smash hit.
Yes, that's true. Let's move on to the good and the bad. What are the good and the bad things about this ride? Sam, we can start off with you. What are the things you like about this ride?
Okay, what I like about it is that everybody can ride it.
Okay.
You have two different experiences that you can get on the same ride. It's arguably the best view of the entire resort that you can possibly get if you're not staying at a hotel.
Nice. That's a good point.
And it's fun. Like you can have a different experience depending on what gondola you pick. You get to ride with other people and see their experience of it, good or bad, which can make your experience good or bad, which I think is exciting and fun. You never really know what you're going to get on this ride, which is not something you can say on other rides because your experience tends to be kind of the same.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good things about it, in my opinion. And the line's usually under 30 minutes, as already proven.
I mean, I always have it in my head as a long line just because like it feels like a lot to wait for it. But I mean, like if you're looking at a 30-minute line and the experience is about 9 minutes, that's a pretty good line to ride ratio there. It's probably among the best.
It's a long experience.
Other goods I had here, I like the terror of it. I think that's very fun. I think I say this a lot on this show. I think it's good to terrorize and traumatize your children. And I think this is a really good place to start them off on. Like really shake their concept of reality. It builds character. Something that seems safe, that's even better because it's like, oh, it's a Ferris wheel. But then they're like, I'm going to die. And you're like, you are going to die.
The bait and switch of it all.
Exactly. I love the lack of safety restraints or handlebars of any kind.
I'm shocked, frankly.
I've seen videos of people just clinging on to this cage for dear life, their hands through like the little cage.
I've made some of those videos.
It's funny. It's really, really funny that they offered no way for you to make yourself feel safe in these swinging gondolas. And piggybacking off that, I like that you could tilt the gondola to 90 degrees if you get enough people on one side of the gondola. I've seen videos of people getting like 4 people on one side and just swinging the shit out of these things, and that kicks ass. So it's like one of the few Disney rides where you could kind of game it to be more intense, and they've put no guardrails in it whatsoever.
Which I think is badass. And do they have cameras in the gondolas?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And that's part of the fun too.
That's why they were able to make out on TikTok.
That's right. Do some swinging on the swinging. I like the barf bags. I like being. I think that's adds. I think that adds an element
ambiance. The barf bags.
It does. It adds some stakes. Like when you walk into a ride and you see barf bags provided, you immediately are now in a different state of mind. You're thinking, okay, A, they have barf bags, which means people barf on this ride frequently enough that they thought it's probably best that we start providing these, cut our losses kind of thing. And now I'm excited. There wasn't even a B there. It was just an A. But like I felt that same way when I got on Mission Space. It adds an element of fear, which I'm about. I do like that the ride is long. It's a good long. It's a long. I mean, I know people complain about it going 2 times. It's a good bang for your buck. And 2 times around, but you get a nice view of the park, as you'd mentioned. I think that's fun. I do enjoy the re-theme. I think each time that they've redone it, I've enjoyed it. I think it'd be fun if they just continually retheme this thing throughout the years, just to give it like a new coat of paint. And last thing I wrote is this is a truly one of one experience. I know there is the Wonder Wheel, but that's giving you a view of Coney Island. There's no other thing in the park that could give you the view of California Adventure that you get here, as you mentioned, Samantha, and the fact that it's one of 2 swinging gondolas in the world. I mean, it's almost like a one-of-a-kind Ferris wheel that gives you a one-of-a-kind view of this park. So I think that makes a pretty unique experience that, can't be discounted too much. Byron, do you have anything that you like about this ride?
I mean, you guys already touched up on the view being amazing. Good sunset ride. Probably a good night ride too. Although I don't think I've ever ridden this at night.
I never have ridden it at night.
Actually, yeah. Wait, I don't know if they do. I don't think they do run it at night. That wouldn't make sense. For
They
World of
didn't
Color.
used to. Yeah, for World of Color, it's hard to get that nighttime, but sometimes they still do Incredicoaster now, which they didn't used to during World of Color. But I don't think Pixar PalARound's included in that.
It'd be a little distracting if you heard screams.
Yeah.
You saw the gondolas swinging.
Well, you're
in the
hearing people
background of
screaming on
Moana
Incredicoaster.
Not to the extent of no, just kidding.
I guess this is a good way to segue into the bad, because one of my bads.
I'll do one more.
One more good. Let's hear it.
Because I do have to acknowledge that the Pixar Pal-A-Round is one of the most Instagrammable. What am I trying to say?
Not even on the ride. You're talking about
I'm
just like
saying that like whenever you see photos of people at California Adventure or even the Disneyland Resort in general, you got Sleeping Beauty's castle, and then right after that, you essentially have all the photos in front of.
It's the weenie of the park now.
It really is.
I mean, we can't discount that.
I think actually when you even see the
like
icon, when you see the icon on the app, it is that Ferris wheel, or it is the Pal-A-Round and the Mickey face on it. It's just it's the most popular photo op in the park.
It does make sense that the biggest weenie in the park would also offer you the option of swinging. To be fair. I will say that I actually
appreciate that
you can make the argument that this is the best like photo op in the resort, because like it really is spectacular. Yeah, like you can make that argument. I think like I personally do think these photos are great usually here, because you get the sunset in the background. The castle, I've never once seen a picture in front of the Disneyland castle that I was like, damn, that's a good picture.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think the Pixar Pal-A-Round was always the weenie of California Adventure. I think it was Grizzly. It was like always the
Grizzly Peak,
California Adventure with like the Grizzly Peak, and then I guess that just didn't take, and then they rebranded to it being Pixar Pal-A-Round, or I guess Fun Wheel at the time, and it's been that ever since. Like anytime you see like merch that's just like all the parks, it's always those two. It's the castle, and you're totally right, which is important, I think.
Also, like, yeah, I think World of Color played a big part in that too, of just like people being forced to look in this direction for a long period of time when they're waiting for the show. During the show, it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty fun thing to look at. But moving on to the bad, that actually is a good segue once again, because my first bad is I wish they would run this thing during World of Color. Could you imagine seeing and that's not even this ride's fault, but the view of World of Color from this bad boy would be spectacular.
I mean, the wait time, that would change the average wait time for sure.
For
because
sure.
I guarantee all of a sudden the incentive to go on that ride would be wildly different.
But there's like several beer carts right next to that. You could have several line beers just waiting for World of Color. Get on this ride. This would be even more elusive than the Incredicoaster ride during World of Color. Byron and I tried to do this recently, and it just wasn't going to happen.
I failed every time at getting
one of these days.
I've done that a few times.
You have? Oh, is it awesome?
Yeah. It is and it isn't, because you're getting the backside of the reflection, so it's not quite as clear. But
gotcha.
I mean, you still see all of the shooting up and all that out of the water. It is really, really cool. Oh, man. Especially that launch, because you are right there.
Oh, man. I didn't even think about the launch. Holy shit.
Yeah. The launch is right on the water.
We got to do everything we can to get that World of Color ride during Incredicoaster.
The thing is, the wait time that they usually post before it is like faster every time I try than what it actually says.
I wonder if we could be like,
so I always get off the ride right when the show is starting, trying to time it out right.
It's tough. That's why the Mickey's Fun, or that's why Pixar PalARound, I keep calling it Mickey's Fun Wheel. Pixar PalARound, I think, would be so nice, because you have 9 minutes to possibly nail it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that you have to be lucky enough to get on that ride though, because it does like take a minute. And if you lose out, it's 9 minutes.
Oh, that's true.
Might not be able to get on.
But I mean, you watch half the show.
That'd be unreal.
Oh, it'd be so good. I don't understand why they don't do it.
The views would be way better too.
Well, because they use Incredicoaster in World of Color now with the lighting package. They use obviously the Pixar PalARound with the lighting package. So I don't get why they don't just let you ride it. Like it doesn't
just blind you.
Well, you can make you
the lighting package.
You can make if it's distracting, it's just as distracting to see Incredicoaster running during World of Color to me. But I don't know.
I would argue it could probably be more, only because Incredicoaster going by in the very back is like just for a second, versus like the swinging is just happening consistently.
Gotcha.
Almost, it would seem.
And there's like a bunch
that's the
of
argument
them.
I'm thinking they would have. There's a bunch of them. I still think they should, because nobody's going to give a shit who's watching the show, I don't think.
You can't hear them anyway. You can't hear the screams.
No. And it would provide excellent viewing from that side, and it would also thin. Well, maybe that's why they think that maybe it would be too desirable and nobody would be watching the show from the front. God. I don't know.
Do you think it has something to do with like how it's lit up and that the lights on the wheel combined with it rotating during the show would be, I guess, distracting? You guess what I'm saying? Like,
it wouldn't be so distracting to make it not doable, though. So I don't really understand it.
Because like they program that show, right, for the lights to do a certain thing and to form different shapes
on the
and
stuff.
Like, yeah. Where if the ride was in motion and moving around in a circle,
but if it's not lit up, oh, I see what you're saying. If there's anybody who listens to this pod or watches this pod that's in operations at California Adventure, please chime in of why they don't do this. Because I'd love for it to be a thing. In terms of bads in particular for this ride, it's I think it's nauseating. It's a nauseating experience. I'm not going to lie. Every time I get on it, I get a little nausea. But maybe it's I just got to stare out into the horizon, like Samantha said. So I'll try that. I feel like this line's pretty brutal, especially if you get on this ride in the summer. You're just in those like concrete switchbacks getting railed by the sun. It's pretty rough. But a lime beer, I suppose, helps. But the queue needs work. It's pretty tough.
I mean, we'll get into the queue, but I mean, I think that it is rough. But if you're with somebody and you're talking,
that's true.
It's not that bad. There's a lot of atmosphere happening around you, and it's very contained. I think that's why it's difficult. At least it's one of those rides where like you know how far away you are. It's not like how much farther is it behind a wall or whatever, and you're like faked out by I think we're there, and then you're not. At least you know what you're getting.
You certainly do.
It is interesting that you load up under the surface of the water.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I wrote cumbersome unload process. it's once the 9 minutes could be a blessing or a curse. Sometimes I'm like, I think I'm good, and I'm like halfway through, and then it's like we got one more revolution to go. But other times I'm like, you know what, I'm enjoying this. But like there could be a possibility, like let's say you don't know the ride's 9 minutes, you're on that first revolution, you just finished, you're like, oh great, I'm gonna go over to my dinner reservation or like my lightning lane reservation now, and then it's like, wait a second, we're going again, and you're trapped.
Or you're me and you're like, oh, we're going again.
Exactly. Or you were like, oh, we're going again if you have nothing to get to.
But when the first revolution is just stopping like every few seconds, you kind of want that second one. You want a fluid run with all the swinging.
Sometimes, well, not according to what was her name? Not according to Kate. You get a whole two rotations before getting.
Wasn't she complaining about the first one though?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that she was saying. Like, I got to do it twice. Anyways, that's all I got for the bads. There's not too much.
You actually reminded me of a bad by mistakenly calling it Mickey's Fun Wheel.
Yes.
Because I do think that's a much better name than Pixar Pal-A-Round.
I agree.
It just rolls off the tongue better.
I like that theme better.
Nothing about Pixar Pal-A-Round makes me think of it being like a Ferris wheel.
That's not the ride's fault, though, because I thought about writing that as well. That's more just because they had to retheme it to Pixar Pier, which whatever. I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's.
I can't think of any other attraction that's had so much rebranding and yet the attraction really didn't change at all.
Samantha, can you bring up your bads about the safety spiel on this attraction?
Oh wait.
Yeah. This is a bad.
Because when we rode this, we did the queue for about like 20 minutes or so, and you brought up to me the safety spiel that it's obviously not Ellen DeGeneres, but it's it's someone doing the voice of Dory
I see.
Right? Can you
It's somebody
elaborate
doing
on
the
this?
voice of Dory, and she's always doing the spiel, which is a bad for the queue. Is that it's annoying.
It is so great. You're here to pal around with us. Okay, to be safe, be sure to stay seated with your hands and fins.
Who is that? Who is that?
Inside the gondola.
But it changes messages every once in a while. But one of the things that always has stuck out to me that I think is such weird copywriting for a queue is, and for those of you who have kids, you're so lucky.
And if you've got little ones, you're so lucky.
Make sure you da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, why? Why do you feel the need to add, you're so lucky? I just feel like it's potentially triggering. I feel like it's unnecessary. Why can't you just be like, for those of you who have kids, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the you're so lucky.
It's a little
the way
add-on
she
that
says
adds
it.
like a dark backstory of like what happened.
There's exactly.
What happened
What
to your
is the
kids that you were
reasoning
trying to
behind this?
have? Like,
Or it's like, in case your kid is bugging the shit out of you, let's remind you, you're so lucky, da-da-da-da-da-da, because like your kid's about to freak the fuck out. I mean, am I allowed to curse? Sorry.
oh no, yeah, we've been. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, but yeah, it's like maybe, I don't know why they felt the need to add that little bit, but also like, what if I don't have a kid? Am I not lucky? Like, it's just weird. It's weird copywriting.
That is really strange.
Like it was their attempt at giving rules to
Humor?
people, like families, like look out for your kids and stuff like that. But like they kind of like wanted to like, I guess, sugarcoat it in a weird way. Like, oh, but also like good for you guys for having kids. Sorry you have to,
It's just
look
such
after
weird
them, but
commentary
you're
on
so
having
lucky.
children.
it's odd. It's very odd.
It's random. It's
weird.
It does happen.
It's bad.
I think I got it. I got the clip on tape of her saying it.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of what they do successfully on Jungle Cruise. That little joke they have where they're like, they're talking about there's that part where they go by the Indiana Jones line and they're like, oh, that's there you see like the natives or something like, and be careful of the small ones, they can latch on to you for 18 years and drain you of your of your money, which is like, that's like a funny joke that's like kind of you could see what they're saying there. This one is like not quite a joke, or I don't even know what they're saying.
That's a joke
I
Mr.
don't know what
Ferris
they're
could have
saying.
gotten behind.
That's right. That's a little tribute to Ferris, the guy who made the wheel.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre, and it's always struck me as unnecessary, and I want to be in the meeting where they're like, we should add this in. And for why? I don't know. It always bugs me.
It's funny. They should have Eeyore.
Maybe because I'm going without kids. Maybe that's why I'm like so pressed by it. But I'm like, well, I guess I'm just...
It is weird.
What are you
though.
talking
liver.
about? You went with me last time.
It is weird because it's just like, that is like, I'm now curious of what happened to this person. There's no reason to say that.
She's supposed to be Dory. That's what's even weirder.
Oh,
is
God.
like, she's supposed to be Dory. It's not just a regular voice. It's the voice of Dory, like the park's voice of Dory. It's a popular voiceover actress. She's the same girl who does all the behind the attraction narration.
Oh, fantastic. I love behind the attraction.
So she's great, but she's also like the resident Dory when Ellen doesn't do it. And it's weird. So why is Dory having an opinion on having kids versus not having kids? Also, so strange.
Maybe Dory, her partner doesn't want to have kids and she's upset about it. That's possible.
Maybe she's trying to subliminally send a message.
That's maybe what it is. Yeah.
So weird.
Do you have any more bads, Samantha, by the way, before we move to the world-class tests?
No, I don't think so.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, you love this ride. So.
It is what it is.
The world-class test.
I love this ride.
This is a rubric of 10 tests painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world-class. To receive the highly coveted world-class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate for world-class pass standing, and anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail. Starting with the average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system? No.
I would argue this is the easiest ride to get on for literally every single person, whether you're an infant or not, getting into the park.
No, I agree. This is everyone can get on this ride quite literally from like a height requirement. It's also pretty accessible in all senses of the word, and you see what you get with the queue. Like you mentioned, it's pretty simple. You wait in the line, you get on it. So
Multiple modes, swinging, non-swinging, whatever your preference is.
that's true. Yeah.
It's there for you.
Exactly.
Easy pass.
Obviously can't miss it. It's the weenie.
Easy pass.
Yeah, this is an easy pass. Moving on to test number 2. That's 1 for 1. Test number 2, the Leslie Stahl test. Would you be willing to wait 60 minutes for this attraction if you've already been on it at least once? Or if everything in the park was 60 minutes, would this be one of the rides you wait for?
I feel like I'm going to have a hard time arguing this with you two.
Samantha,
you would.
Samantha, I feel like you're arguing with yourself here. Let's. I think you need to be honest with yourself. Would you really wait 60 for this in your heart of hearts? Come on now.
Let me explain, because I feel like there's context to this, right? Okay. First of all, there are like 5 attractions at California Adventure.
That's true.
If you are only looking at like a 1 park 1 day visit, you have to factor that in too, because am I doing this versus what? What's the other like top tier thing? Maybe Guardians, I would say.
Guardians.
Right. But if you've never been on this with somebody else, because I know the question is like, oh, if you've already been on it, but if the other person I'm with hasn't been on it,
that's most
you
of the
bet
fun,
your ass we're going on that ride. And I would wait 60 minutes if everything else was 60 minutes. Plus, it's the weenie. So, and the fact is, you're not waiting 60 minutes like 90% of the time.
That's not the
I understand the question. I understand the question. But I still feel like I would wait 60 minutes if I'm riding with somebody who hasn't ridden on it before.
But if it's just you.
If it's just me.
I think that Sai said it all.
Of everything. Is that the question? If it's just you, though?
Would you be willing to wait on this attraction if you've already been on it at least once? Or if everything in the park was 60, would you wait for this? The implication
it's not
there.
Qualifying.
Here's the thing.
There's no implication that you're alone. How many people go to the parks alone?
Here's the thing. I'm going to name... This is what I think is the most damning. I'm going to name 3 off the top of my head rides of this very ride-starved park that are worth waiting a 60-minute wait over this ride. Soarin', Guardians, Incredicoaster, Radiator for sure. I don't think anyone's gonna argue that. And then I think you could even throw a.
Some people would do Toy Story Mania 60 over this. Some people.
I don't agree with that.
I personally.
I don't agree with Soarin'. I don't agree with a lot of the ones that you said.
You don't agree with Incredicoaster or Guardians and Radiator?
I agree. I can see Radiator also Radiator's incredibly. It's the line is, if you're seeing 60, that's like almost a good line.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like it's worth the 60.
Well, yeah.
Grizzly on a hot day.
And Guardians. Well, no, I think Grizzly's. No, I still feel like this one is offering you something that the other ones are not offering you. The views, and it depends on your frame of mind too. Like if you're looking for like a rest and a chill moment, and then you also want to have some fun, you get a 2-fer.
Samantha, I don't doubt that you would wait 60 for this.
I'm gonna have to fail it. I'm sorry. It's a fail for me.
No!
It's a fail for me, Byron.
It's difficult because Guardians is my favorite ride, so like I get it, but
Guardians is good. I think I would rather wait. Okay, this is what the PalARound has going for it though.
Oh my god.
I'm just trying to be fair.
Are you?
I have to bring, like, if you are willing to wait the 60 for this and you are over the age of 21 and down to booze it up, they serve beer pretty close.
That is so many like disclaimers that have to come into play. There's yes. It's a very specific.
I'm just trying to cover. I'm just trying to leave no stone unturned. I'm trying to, like, if you're crazy enough to wait the 60 for this, or you're as awesome as our guest Samantha is to wait the 60. You see me backtrack there?
Yeah.
Very shifty. But anyways,
I'll admit to being crazy. It's fine.
If you're willing, we all are here. I mean, that's why we're on this show.
Yeah, we're sickos. Okay.
But if you're willing to wait the 60 for this, I gotta lay out ways that you could enjoy the 60 here. Obviously, getting a beer nearby.
You would need a yard. You would need like a yard stick of beer.
You grab 2 beers. But then you got to be careful, because if you're on this 9-minute ride and all of a sudden the seal's broken, then you're stuck in this Ferris wheel. You're swinging back and forth.
I can't think of a worse ride. This would probably be top my list of like worst rides to have to go pee on.
Your bladder's taking the pounding up there.
Oh my god.
So that could be messy, and then.
But the good news is, if you had to crap, you could crap in one of those bags.
You could crap in the bag.
That's the good news. That's the. How is that the good news, Samantha?
You have options.
I
If you're trapped
guess.
on Guardians, you're not going anywhere.
Okay, with that point, I have to pass it.
No, you're not
I'm
gonna.
kidding.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The reality is, usually when I grab a line beer at that cart or one of the near carts, whether it's in San Francisco or over in Paradise Gardens, I'm usually enjoying that line beer like in line for Incredicoaster, if I'm being honest. I don't see myself ever waiting an hour for this. I really hope not.
I tried, okay?
But
I tried.
I truly
I went down
support you.
swinging.
You did go down swinging.
Yes. No, Samantha, if we make this a tradition and we have to ride it every time and it happens to be an hour, I will grab a line beer or two and we'll wait the hour. That's the only exception though. But in terms of the spirit of this test, I have to fail it.
Yeah, that's just I just can't ever imagine a world in which I waited 60 minutes for this. It would,
You don't write it enough to know.
I would have to be gummied out of my mind. Like there would have to be. I would not be okay. That would be not well. Test number 3. We're moving on. We're 1 for 2. Test number 3, smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone?
I got arguments for this one too. I know
I'm
you're
sure
laughing,
you do.
But
Look, there's good kinetics. You're watching them swing.
1000%. There's so much going on around you.
You got the coaster going by. Once again, this is how much of like a little bit of the work is being done from the wheel itself. I get that. You got swinging gondolas. I don't know if that could keep your attention for the 22 or 25 average minutes. The Incredicoaster, once again, everything else at play is not the attraction itself. It is the environment.
This is the people mover all over again.
Yeah, people move all over again.
But then it's still, the environment is still the attraction. They're not mutually exclusive. Like, you have to factor all of that in.
I don't think you do. I think the queue, to me, is like, what work did they put into the queue itself? What effort did they put into the queue to make that a pleasurable experience for you? And they put no work. they made a this
But
is
what
where you
if
stand.
because they're thinking like I am?
It's a 2001
because they're like, oh, look at all these
Disney
things
queue.
that are around.
I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's hear your arguments though, because like that's
Well, and plus now there's that little stage where the characters do their like little meet and greets and like little things in their shows and stuff. So like sometimes you have that going for you. Yeah.
They do have like
queue?
Pixar characters besides Dory talking, right? During the
What character is this?
I know. She used to be like, this is Dory. And now they've incorporated this Miguel, which didn't used to be here, I don't think.
I don't know. The Dory one just always sticks in my craw because of that comment she makes. But.
Yeah, besides Dory's pregnancy troubles, what does this queue have to offer?
I don't know. I have very routinely been on this queue for like the 15, 20 minutes and not been on my phone because there's like so much going on.
You know what?
Here's the thing.
Is there?
I'm gonna go ahead.
You only took out your phone to film.
Can I find video evidence of you on your phone in this line? That would be hilarious. Hold on.
I'm gonna go ahead and fail this, but I'll leave it up to you two. You two decide the fate of this. I just there's nothing in this
I think
queue.
you took out your phone to film her saying the weird pregnancy
count.
comment.
That was the only time
it.
I was using the phone was to film our experience.
Yeah, and then
but I want to see if you're like chilling here on your phone.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
This is an expose.
You're looking at your watch.
Because I was timing the line. Because I was timing the line, to be fair.
True. Okay, you're okay.
I wasn't like, how long do I have to be stuck with Byron in this line?
I'm looking at some B-roll that I took of the backside, which we didn't put in the bad, but the backside that's not Mickey is still kind of a sun.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's pretty
and
funny.
it's obviously like the spine of the structure, and that's like kind of what you're looking at the entire time in this queue. There is shade upon review here, but it is not the most like pretty structure, like side of the structure.
It's not fun to look
that you're looking at.
It's not a fun experience to stand in this line.
But I will say, it does not appear that I have any video evidence of you on your phone, although I didn't take that many.
I mean, you're also lowered too, so you're not even seeing a lot of like the sights of California Adventure. You're kind of,
but you're seeing it from a very unique perspective that you would otherwise not get.
Yeah, you're seeing it from like the above, like from below an old World War II bunker. Like you're like in like the trenches of trench warfare. No, not have fun. Like I said, I've already said I'm failing it. That's my fail.
Although I cannot prove that Samantha uses her phone in line for this attraction, the queue definitely doesn't have enough to keep me off my phone, so I have to fail it.
Oh,
as
thank
well.
Did you
God.
pass People Mover for this?
We did, and then we went to court.
I didn't pass it, and then we had to go to court, and then we got it changed.
We got it changed in world-class kangaroo court.
But there was a time that I attempted to pass. This was the early days of this show.
So then why don't we pass
I
it
attempted
now?
to-
Because
and
I've
then you
learned
can
from my
argue it
mistakes.
later?
I've learned from my mistakes. I've learned.
So did I, because I attempted to pass Matterhorn for like the ambience as well, when really the queue itself is not really doing enough.
No, it's
I think we've both.
No,
learned
the only
over
real
the
view
course.
you have is of like the Edelweiss snacks. You don't really have a lot of.
yeah. Well, just for the record, Samantha, you have passed this, and we have
100%.
and we have failed it, but you've been overruled. So it is a. But you fought for the honor. You fought valiantly.
We love that you
I
love
had
this
to.
ride.
That's 1 for 3.
I came here to play. Listen.
Okay, test number 4, the Tony Stark test. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward? This is a really interesting one, honestly.
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, it is interesting because, like, initially I think, oh yeah, it is innovative until you realize it is a copy of a
the Wonder Wheel. Yeah,
a
you're right.
1920
Yeah, you're right.
attraction.
Yeah, you're right.
So once again, I cannot pass it. It is straight up. They were like, hey, we want to replicate like a nearly exact same size. Well, oh my God. You know what? It's super innovative. I'm sorry, guys. It's 10 feet bigger.
I got to start divorcing myself of personal feelings during this test, because what happens when a ride starts to score poorly, I start to feel bad for the guest. Like I start to feel like I
knew what I signed up for.
I
picking
don't.
This ride.
Like, oh yeah, like obviously we love when guests have a particular like ride that they ride hard for. It's like just special to them, and that's what makes this so fun. However, like I'm sure we've had some debatably high scores for some attractions where a guest like really comes and has all these crazy arguments. This attraction is impossible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how you
to slither your way through getting passes.
I agree that there's if the Wonder Wheel did not exist, this would be a pass, but unfortunately it is not a pass.
Unfortunately, this only exists because the Wonder Wheel exists.
Exactly.
An attraction you've been on.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I know. Oh, but what's funny too is what's weird though is that there's never been another. Like it's just these two now. I find that interesting.
I think it's because they saw the Yelp reviews and they were just like, okay, maybe don't make another vomitorium. Moving on to test number 5, that is a fail. The Hollywood the Hollywood test. Can this attraction be adapted for the silver screen? Does it have a comprehensible story?
I think it could.
I don't think so. I mean,
explain yourself.
I think they could make a well, okay, here's the thing. Is the question like, could they make a movie based off of this ride, or does the ride have enough of a story inherently that story could be a movie?
That's
because those are two different questions.
The latter, I would say, is the more the spirit. Is there enough?
Fuck.
Yeah, there's not really much you could do here.
No, but I have an idea for a movie.
Okay.
That Disney could, take and bring me on as a consultant for.
That's
but, like,
true.
Imagine like there's like this magical Ferris wheel gondola thing, and it swings you into like the movie that you're going into.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess it's being like a Disney Plus series, like the Dream series that they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like that could be something, but no, there's nothing inherently going on in the ride, unfortunately.
You bailed halfway through that pitch where you were just like,
no, well, it depends on the question, and you said that wasn't the question.
A magical wheel that swings you into the Pixar universe where all the characters intermingle and pal around. Clearly a story here.
I don't think so.
I mean,
look, I think it was a valiant effort. It was a pretty hard thing to try and make a story out of. So I think for the source material you were given, it was a good cobbling together, in my opinion. But alas, I still have to fail.
I have to fail it as well.
And I think Samantha, in your heart, you fail it as well.
yeah, it's fine. I can admit.
That's 1 for 5. Is it even possible for it to
Jesus Christ. No, I don't think so.
No, it's official. No, it's not even in debate land. Yeah, it's out.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess we're just trying to get it higher than supercharged at this point.
What was supercharged again?
I think it was like a 3.
Okay.
Well, now we're fighting to keep this from being the lowest rated attraction.
The lowest ride? That is so embarrassing.
Test number.
It's way better than Supercharged.
Honestly, I agree with you. There's no way this ride is not better than Supercharged.
It's definitely more enjoyable than that. So like we'll see how but it's really up to the test to decide if it's better than Supercharged because the test is super official and super well thought out and stuff.
The test number 6 then is the Simpson test. How likely is this to be replaced with something new? And I mean, there's been different paint jobs on this essentially. But like the wheel itself the ride is the same. So, and I actually don't think this is going to be replaced.
No, this is 0% getting replaced.
They would have to change the entire pier aesthetic.
They'd have to get rid of Pixar Pier, which is pretty recent. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Like maybe actually, I mean, the thing is getting rid of the pier itself and building a new land would basically omit World of Color.
And it would also take away Incredicoaster.
And that's a pretty like thin spine or like back end of the park.
Yes.
Where that you can't
Not
just build some massive,
like all the front rides too.
Yeah, you can't build some massive like Avatar type like IP land because you just don't have enough space back there. It would just like end up falling into Catella?
And I think
or whatever.
Currently they're actually planning on putting Coco behind the
Coco is going behind
because that's got just enough backstage area for it, but you can't build a whole new land back there. No. So I think it's pretty safe.
No, and if you think about the square footage of that ride, it's so small that it's impossible to put anything else in that same footprint that it would just be stupid to get rid of an attraction.
Agree.
That is capacity filling. And no way.
I think the best opportunity for them to have gotten rid of it was back when they got rid of Maliboomer. This, I think,
but like Samantha pointed out, the footprint's so tiny. What are you even going to put here?
Yeah.
It doesn't have backstage area. It doesn't have a show building.
You can't replace
what you see is what you get.
You can't replace it with anything that would take up the same amount of space and pump the same amount of riders through.
No,
it's still
plus going back to the fact that it's the weenie.
It's still got it's the weenie. Exactly. Yeah, it's the weenie. It's
It would need to be a whole new rebranding for the entire park if they get rid of this one particular ride.
It still has demand, swinging and non-swinging. It's a pass.
It's a pass.
It's still a very relevant ride, and it offers value to this park more so than a Fast and Furious Supercharged.
Hey, we're at 2 for 6, guys. That's good.
Yeah.
Test number 7, the signature moment test. Can the ride hold its own without its signature moment? Is this ride
I don't know why you're laughing. This is an easy pass.
Is this what you're talking?
You know what?
Is this ride a one-trick pony?
It's already 2 rides in one. What do you mean it's a one-trick pony?
I have to agree.
What?
So here's the deal: is if you get rid of the signature moment of its swinging, it's still a massive Ferris wheel doing what a Ferris wheel is supposed to do. As a matter of fact, a lot of people prefer the non-swinging, and like you said,
that's true. No, what you're right. No, you guys are right. Yep.
You get you're on the rimmer or you're on the perimeter of the wheel more so than the rails. So you're actually going up, I think, even higher.
Yeah.
I think you take away the signature feature of this ride, and it's still an above average Ferris wheel.
I guess just by virtue of it being, you have 2 different versions of this ride that you could ride. It is like by definition not a one trick pony. That's a good point. You guys are right.
And for many people, the swinging is not their favorite part. It's
I apologize.
Taking in the beautiful views of the Disneyland Resort. Or if you look in the other direction, Anaheim.
That's fair.
But yeah, I think it's a pass.
No, it's a pass. You're right. You're both right. I apologize. I jumped the gun. That's 3 for 7. Well, at least it's not the least.
It's tied.
It's tied with Supercharged. Let's see if we can get above Supercharged. I don't think so.
Okay, listen, we have to make this happen. I cannot let it ride equally.
I feel confident.
All right. Well, let's go to test number 8 then. How about that? The premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon?
Absolutely not. It's a 9-minute ride.
No, and some would argue it's too long. Same thing with Supercharged. We had that same problem, but I know that you get a lot of bang for your buck here. It's a pass.
Yeah, it's a pass.
Pass.
That's 4 for 7. Now, well, it's officially not the worst reviewed attraction on this pod. So thank God. Thank God for that. And honestly, we didn't try and even wiggle that. It's like it passed that. Got to 4 very fair and square. It is.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we're going to end up debating this bad boy. I think it's going to make it to the debate stage.
There's no fucking way. Okay. Moving on to the exit hall test. Do you see people be physically excited getting off of this ride? Do they have that bounce in their step as they leave?
100%. Yes.
for swinging, if you're a swinger, you might be getting bounced. What do you think? I'm actually kind of on the fence.
What is there to be on the fence about? If you went on the non-swinging one, you got exactly what you came for. Some beautiful views.
I gotta say that the majority of the time you're on this ride, there's a considerable amount of bounce. There's a lot of screaming. There's just like a lot of that bounce is like generated from the people around you. It may maybe for me personally, I don't get like as much bounce, but if I'm being objective, the average tourist is getting a considerable amount of bounce to the extent that they call this Mickey's Death Wheel.
That's true. I think the reactions are pretty big getting off of this ride in the swinging version.
And it's never like getting off and sad. It's getting off and like, oh my God, that was fun.
I think I might have to agree.
Comeback of the century. Here we go.
Okay, that's right. 5 for 9. That's a pass as well. That's 4 passes in a row. This is a comeback. And if, oh no, the fine wine test. Has this ride aged well? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or if it's a new ride, do you believe it will age well?
It's only getting better over time. It's getting better rebranding. It's getting more and more notoriety, whether good or bad, but it's getting more excitement the longer that this goes on. Way more than it has when it first opened.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue that it's not gotten better. I think it still has, the novelty hasn't worn off. It's pretty well maintained. It's a great sight line for the park. I unfortunately I think I might have to pass this.
I believe I have to pass it as well.
Which means it is now at 6 for 10, which, oh, Jesus Christ.
Which
incredible.
Means we have to debate it.
Oh, that was good. That was
really good. Are you like a performer or something?
Oh my God. Yeah. Only a couple Broadway shows. That's fine.
Now, how do we, you know what, Samantha, let's start with you. The floor is yours. Do you think this is or is not a world-class attraction, and why? You could explain you could reveal the yes or no at the end, but I think we know what you think. And then
sure,
maybe give your reasoning first.
I think an important question to ask ourselves is, does Disney think that this is a world-class attraction enough to make it the weenie of one of their parks? Yes, they do. Okay, it's world-class enough for them to make it the literal icon of their entire park. It's 2 rides in one. You can oscillate your experience whenever you want. It's literally the best view of any of the rides at both parks at that resort. It's unmatchable. You can even see Galaxy's Edge from this ride. I mean, it's incredible. It's super fun. It's different every time you ride it, depending on who you're going on it with. I don't see how there's any world where this isn't a world-class attraction. What? Because it doesn't have an interesting queue? Who cares? It's not about the ride.
Okay, so that's a pass from Samantha. And per the tradition of this show, we're going to go to Byron now next.
Is that the tradition?
It has been, because there's been so many times where it's come down to me.
It always is. It always does come down to you.
Unfortunately.
Do you want it to come down to you again?
I think if you do the right thing, it's not going to matter.
All right. I have to be completely honest here. At the end of the day, it is a Ferris wheel. And I think, under the blanket of it being a Ferris wheel, like just the ride type in general, you can consider it world class. It's synonymous with amusement parks in the Midway. But at the end of the day, there are like thousands of these things. Even though this one does swing, and it does offer.
There's 2.
There are 2 specific ones remaining that have the swing to it. But at the end of the day, it is an iteration of a Ferris wheel. It is not the original iteration of this type of swinging gondola Ferris wheel. It is an exact replica of Coney Island's Wonder Wheel, which I honestly just think for that novelty and that history has a better chance potentially of being considered world class in this debate stage just for its innovation.
It's also bigger.
Well, this one's ever so slightly bigger. Like, you're not going to notice the extra 10 feet.
No, I'm saying there's 36 on the.
Oh, on this version.
On this, I'm saying the Wonder Wheel is bigger. isn't it?
No, the Wonder Wheel in
Also,
size
the way
is
it
slightly
swings
smaller.
is a little bit different.
Wonder Wheel's 150 feet. This one's supposedly 164 feet diameter.
Samantha, you said the sway is slightly different.
It is. It's not exactly the same mechanism, but yeah, it's it's almost similar. Yeah, but
regardless, I think 6 out of 10 is honestly a perfect score in my opinion for what this attraction is trying to do. It was never intended to be an e-ticket attraction. It was supposed to be part of the skyline, be pretty to look at, gobble up a lot of passengers. But this thing isn't pulling in multi-hour waits or, thousands of people an hour for a reason. I think it holds a great value to the resort as a great filler attraction, but nobody in their right mind, apart from Samantha and some other really cool people out there, it's a select niche for this ride to be a priority. I think the average tourist is using this as filler to add value to their day and to kind of glue their day together. But ultimately, it's not what people are. People are definitely more inclined to take a photo in front of this thing as opposed to ride it. Let's just put it that way.
Can I pose a thought?
Yes.
To amend this? Because if you're saying the average guest, right? Okay. But what about those like kids who this is one of only a handful of rides that this is their most exciting ride they can go on? Like, isn't it a world-class attraction for that kid?
They got to grow
just
up.
Because you can go on, but just because you can go on more things than them, do you know what I mean? You have to take that into account.
I don't know. I feel like maybe for non-swinging, but I honestly feel like some kids would be less afraid to go on Radiator Springs Racers than this one.
But there's a height requirement for that ride.
There is a height requirement for that.
Look, Samantha, you've pulled this attraction out of the trenches. You've made it to the debate stage for an attraction that I said would be impossible. Like, no way on God's green earth could you get this to become a world-class attraction. You've gotten it as far as it can go, but it is, once again, it's impossible to consider this a world-class attraction, in my opinion. I think it sits wonderfully at 6 out of 10. I really respect that score, and I can't give the world-class pass to it unless Ryan has something to say otherwise.
I'm the last goal line defense here. Yeah. I will say that Samantha has made some pretty compelling arguments about like the rideability for kids. I also think that in the world of Ferris wheels, this is among the best. So, but I have to agree with Byron. I don't think at the end of the day, people are going to this park for this ride. And I don't think in good conscience, I could give it a world-class pass. I do think 6 out of 10 is a very fair score of a ride that is loved and punches way above its weight class. But I think 6 is fair. And
it's a world-class photo op.
How dare you?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to deny. I think it's going to be a fail.
And
you did fight valiantly, and honestly, you almost got me to change my mind. I was really thinking about it.
I don't know if we've ever had a comeback like this where
that was scary.
It went from this might be the lowest scored attraction to this is almost world class.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
And I think I have to reiterate this. I brought this up a few times where it is, in my opinion, attractions like these, whether it be Pixar Pal-A-Round, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, other ones that get in that 5 to 6 range on our tests that provide so much value to the park going experiences, and you need attractions like these.
That's what makes the theme park great. You need everything.
And they are the type of attractions that also, as like for like theme park like heads, because like we make this test like to try and be objective and be, for everyone, average tourists and theme park heads. But there are particular attractions such as these where like theme park heads, if they like this ride, like they love this ride.
Yeah.
And it just makes it all more part of the fun that you are in kind of a niche group of people that specifically like this ride calls to you. It wouldn't be as fun if everyone loved this like a Radiator Springs Racers and waited hours for it, so.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
So I love the result of this test. I think a 6 out of 10 is, like I said, just perfect for what this ride does. I really appreciate this ride. And Samantha, you fought very valiantly, and I think you helped get this to where it deserves to be.
I agree.
Listen, I feel like the 6 was an easy 6. I don't feel like I had to fight that hard, to be honest. I feel like I fought really hard and it's still lost on the times that I had to fight hard.
Yeah.
But I feel like the 6 was an easy get. All of those things were very easy to get. I don't feel like I worked my way to a 6. I just want to give the ride its due. I didn't do it. The ride did it.
I think you did do a fair amount of work, even if like all the wax you put into the tree didn't eventually chop it down. It wore us down enough to get to the 6, I think. Like,
you really beat us into submission. we took our.
That's what I'm known for. Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for coming on the show, Samantha. Is there anything you'd like to plug
fun.
to our to the audience here, where we could find you, and maybe something you're working on right now?
Yeah, you can find me on socials at the Samantha Souza, pretty much everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, if that's still, I don't know, YouTube. And if you're ever in the Vegas area, I'm always doing something in one of the shows around there. So if you follow me on one of those socials, you'll find out where at that given time.
I mean, if you allow me to toot your horn for you, you're performing in several shows in Vegas. I don't know how long you're doing those, but maybe if people are hearing this, they could go see you perform.
Yeah, I'm in Magic Mike Live at the Sahara Casino Resort. And if you're a man, I encourage you still check it out. It's a lot more than people think. I'm also in Screamed, the musical parody, which may or may not be playing in LA at the time of this coming out. Because we are slated to come to LA. So maybe you can come to see me in that if you're local to the theme park area. That I highly recommend. It's a musical parody of the cult movie Scream. It's super fun.
That sounds great. Well, thank you for spending your time with us here, and we appreciate you coming on and fighting for the honor of Pixar Pal-A-Round. That does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. If you're watching, make sure to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, or if you're listening, rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe as well. And once again, consider supporting us by joining our fourth wall and becoming a park hopper, as we're calling it, by heading to fyapod.com. As mentioned up top, it'll help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show that you just listened to. And you'll also find our merch there as well. And thank you to all of those who are already park hoppers over at fyapod.com. We appreciate it. You can follow the pod socials at fyapod everywhere. I'm at Ryan Bergara everywhere. Except Twitter, where I'm at Ryan S. Bergara. But I'm hopping off Twitter soon. Byron is at Byron A. Marin across all socials. But thank you guys for spending your time with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you all on the next ride. Bye-bye.